Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. A United States politician who previously served in the United States House of Representatives has stated that the SEC case versus Ripple, that's a lawsuit that is, quote, a stretch that challenges logic. This guy don't hold back, and he's absolutely correct. So I want to share with you an article that he wrote for The Hill. And I've also got some brand new takes from attorney John Deaton on some legal happenings, with John Deaton, of course, being a member of the XRP community, but also an attorney. And he is the attorney who is famously, at this point I would say, famously within the XRP community at least, seeking to intervene in the SEC versus Ripple case on behalf of over 17,000 XRP holders. So plenty to talk about in this latest Moon Lambeau hot jam. But I do want to be clear at the outset. I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice. And you should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who makes YouTube videos as a fun hobby. And I thought I'd start with something a little lighthearted from XRP The Standards Productions. This is their Twitter account right here, and if you're looking at their screen, you can see there's a picture of Gary Gensler, who is the newly appointed SEC chairman, replacing that previous asshat, Jay Clayton. And there's this guy, the little cartoon-looking guy, with a stick poking Gary Gensler, and it says, "Come on, do something." And you know what? I kind of wanted to do something, then I'm like, actually, from what I've seen from Gary Gensler to this point anyway, is that it's in many ways a continuation of what happened under the rule of Jay Clayton. So maybe the less he does, the better, actually, now that I see it. But anyway, I just thought it was funny, so I decided I'd share. So did you guys catch a video I recently put out having to do with SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce effectively stating XRP might not be a security? That's kind of a big deal, right? Because she's one of the five commissioners, excuse me, one of the five commissioners that got to vote on whether or not the SEC would bring a complaint against Ripple, which it ultimately did, as you well know, at this point in December of last year. And so I don't want to rehash all of that in this video, but there was a tweet from XRP community member XRP Crypto Wolf, and you shared a story on that. And attorney John Deaton retweeted that, and he wrote the following on that topic. In my opinion, what Hester Peirce is actually saying is that, legally speaking, it is absurd to consider the digital asset itself as an investment contract, aka a security. Any commodity, whether it's Bitcoin, gold, oil, etc., or product, it could be cars, mining equipment, etc., can be sold as an investment contract. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that, but pick an asset. It can be sold in such a way that it represents a security. It's not the asset itself that makes it a security. Just like in the Howey case, which had to do with oranges and orange groves, the underlying orange was not a security. It was a delicious orange. Okay, can you imagine if oranges were declared a security? I mean, can you imagine all the poor farmers out there? They're like, "Bitch, I just trying to make some orange juice up here." Like, and then they're like, "No. That orange juice is now a security. It's a delicious security." But it makes no damn sense here. And so then an XRP community member named Team Digital responded to John and wrote, "Hey John, don't we already know this? And isn't the lawsuit about whether XRP was sold as a security or not?" Yes, indeed. And he's correct. And so John Deaton responded to that and wrote the following. Many people have the same impression as Team Digital about what the SEC is alleging in the case against Ripple. It is 100% understandable why people have this impression. First, the SEC has been very inconsistent in its legal arguments, both written and oral. Second, other people have disagreed with what I've said and claim that the SEC is only arguing that XRP is a security when Ripple sells it. But the truth can be found in the SEC's motion in opposition to XRP holders' motion to intervene on page 24. And you can see I had a little screen grab right here. And here's a quote. "The XRP traded, even in the secondary market, is the embodiment of those facts, circumstances, promises, and expectations, and today represents that investment contract end quote. The SEC argues to the judge that XRP itself, even the XRP traded in the secondary market, and thus, not just from Ripple, is the embodiment of Ripple's efforts and promises, and today represents that investment contract. And so, in other words, the SEC is claiming that today's XRP, including the XRP traded on the exchanges, because those are secondary markets, are all investment contracts under Howey and thus securities. It is because of this absurd claim that I filed the writ of mandamus, followed later by the motion to intervene. If the case was only about when and how Ripple sells XRP, the SEC would have never heard from me. I hope this ends any confusion about what the SEC has alleged. Exactly, and I think that's straightened out, which is why I wanted to highlight that. Now on to the next topic, though. And I actually came across this because of John Deaton, so I'm going to run through this article from The Hill. But here's what John Deaton wrote when he was sharing this with the public. He wrote, XRP holders, word is getting out more and more about the bogus claims made against XRP. And then he writes, businesses develop innovative solutions on blockchain ledgers that become decentralized. They can't get out of the gate if the SEC is going to swing its sledgehammer for distributions that happened 7 years ago. This is what makes it such a glaring example of regulatory overreach. And so that's part of a quote. And so into the article now. And this was titled, With Washington Recommitted to Innovation, Cryptocurrencies Need a Congressional Fix. And so this was written by former Rep. George Nethercutt, who I was not familiar with, so I just did a very brief Googling of him here. And you can see he's described as an American politician, author, consultant, columnist, and commentator. And his article reads as follows. Congress just achieved a rare bipartisan feat in passing the Endless Frontier Act through the Senate. This bold legislative package recommits the U.S. to technological innovation and global leadership in the race against Chinese domination. At the very least, Republicans and Democrats understand that the U.S. must do more to win this fight. However, unless the Biden administration and Congress change their current attention deficit on cryptocurrencies, America's efforts may be in vain. Beneath the headlines and outside of the halls of Congress, federal bureaucrats are actively circumventing Congress and using the courts to regulate the U.S. cryptocurrency industry. The total lack of regulatory clarity in the Securities Act is the main culprit, and consensus is building. This is especially evident to observers of the Securities and Exchange Commission's December 2020 lawsuit against San Francisco-based enterprise software company Ripple over its distribution of the cryptocurrency XRP. The SEC's case has stood on questionable grounds since day one, coming as an 11th hour announcement from the now former SEC chairman Jay Clayton. He'd spent much of his tenure insisting that the SEC not provide regulatory clarity to this rapidly evolving tech space, allowing the agency to take arbitrary, often contradictory stances from one day to the next on different digital tokens. Pause right there. My favorite one at this point is just comparing XRP to Ethereum. That's my personal favorite off the top of my head. Because XRP was created before Ripple, the company, existed. Whereas, you look at Vitalik Buterin and all the Ethereum guys, in 2014, before Ethereum launched, they did an ICO. And it wasn't called that back then. That term didn't come out until 2017, but it was the same damn thing. Funding the development of a token in 2014, it didn't exist. Ethereum did not exist. And then it came out at some point in 2015. And somehow, the SEC doesn't think that's a problem. Talk about contradictory stances. It's disgusting. XRP's older than Ethereum. But anyway, he continues here. This put companies in a confusing morass of uncertainty, which Clayton ultimately exploited when the lawsuit was filed on his last day in office. The SEC based its lawsuit on the same outdated principles that has plagued much of the cryptocurrency space over the last decade, the Howey test. It's a byproduct of a 1946 Supreme Court decision centered on two Florida citrus groves, and it has been used to define what is and is not a security based on standards set almost a century ago. The suit alleges that sales of XRP over 7 years were one long, unregistered securities trade, which the company and its executives should have known from the beginning. But the agency itself had publicly said for years it wasn't able to draw that conclusion, as billions of tokens were being traded all over the world by investors who had no connection to the company. And so like that's one of those things right there that is always just, as I've thought about it, I'm just like, you, SEC, have been aware of what Ripple's been doing for the better part of a decade. You have been asked about this, higher-ups including former SEC Chair Jay Clayton, all of this. And it's clear that they didn't know that they wanted to go after Ripple and XRP for the vast majority of that time. That much is clear, that much is known. But somehow, Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson and all the executives over at Ripple, they should have known from day one that what they were doing was illegal. That is nonsense. That is pure and utter nonsense. And you have to know, because I don't think these people at the SEC are stupid. I just think they're unethical. I don't know what their motives are, but it's wrong. And so they know that their arguments don't, there's no way they're going to stand. Those arguments do not stand, yet they're moving forward with all this nonsense. And so it's so refreshing to see so many people that have no bias in this. They have no dog in the fight, just coming out and just looking at the facts and saying, what the hell are you doing, SEC? Don't make no damn sense, bunch of asshats. Anyway, the piece continues. The basic premise of the lawsuit on its face is a stretch that challenges logic. Whew, that is the best line. I love that line. Yeah, the lawsuit is a stretch that challenges logic. Yeah, no kidding. Businesses develop innovative solutions on blockchain ledgers that become decentralized through wide token distributions. They can't get out of the gate if the SEC is going to swing its sledgehammer for distributions that happened 7 years ago. This is what makes it such a glaring example of regulatory overreach. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, exactly. Which is why when I was talking about Hester Peirce's most recent comments in a video just the other day, I was talking about her proposal for a 3-year safe harbor proposals. Maybe it's called Safe Harbor Act. I can't remember, but the idea would be that if you're launching a cryptocurrency in the United States, if this were adopted anyway, we don't know if it's going to be, maybe not under Gary Gensler, but if it were, then you'd have 3 years to get your cryptocurrency distributed and to a point where it's sufficiently decentralized. The specifics of the guideline, like I don't know that that's a lot in the public. I haven't seen it anyway, but the general concept actually sounds pretty damn good, because the truth of the matter is pretty much 100% of cryptocurrencies that have ever been created have been centralized at the outset. And if it's centralized, then it's highly likely that if you're distributing and you have any sort of monetary gain, that's going to represent a security. And so if you want this type of innovation to be able to occur in the United States, you need to acknowledge that the rules today in the United States are not sufficient to accommodate that. And if you don't want it, then you keep doing what you're doing if you're the SEC. Which is why I don't think they care. That's exactly what it looks like. But I like what Hester Peirce has been proposing here. And so anyway, piece continues. Recent calls to establish a more appropriate standard for technologically complex digital assets have turned into a firestorm since the Ripple case was filed. Some tech policy experts closely following the case have called for a Ripple test to replace Howey, but that shouldn't be left up to courts. Congress has to get off the sidelines once and for all, and urgently. The new SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, acknowledged in recent testimony before the House that it is, quote, only Congress that could really address, end quote, the regulatory clarity question. Right now, the exchanges trading in these crypto assets do not have a regulatory framework, either at the SEC or our sister agency, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, he pointed out. Yeah, just think about that. That's what he said, yet somehow Ripple was supposed to know that what they were doing from day one was wrong, even though they're acknowledging there's not a framework, like right here. Jesus, if I'm Ripple's attorneys, like that's one of the bazillion things I'd be eating up right there, eager to share with the judge. Anyway, So anyway, this comes against the backdrop of China rolling out its own sovereign digital currency, the digital yuan, that copies all the features of a cryptocurrency, cheap, fast, and reliable, but with the usual Chinese characteristics. A closed ledger that allows the Chinese state to monitor every aspect of a user's daily life. With Chinese tech giants looking to dominate the fintech space ahead of Western crypto industry disruptors, any more congressional foot dragging only kneecaps our best and brightest firms as they try to pull ahead. At a time when both the White House and Congress are aligned to use the government's power to protect American interests, Congress needs to get the SEC and the rest of the regulatory agencies in line on cryptocurrencies. Bipartisan action is quite possible, as consensus is emerging that protecting both investors and innovators are urgent concerns. Yes, absolutely. And there seems to be little to no focus on protecting the innovators. That's a problem. And then you see the SEC, quote unquote, like protecting investors. Oh, okay. Well, thanks, SEC, for protecting me. No. Obviously, that's sarcasm. Nobody that holds XRP believes that the SEC is protecting them. With maybe one weird outlier, like you could find two people. Is it like 2 people per 100,000 holders? Would it even be that much? Could you find two? Would it even be that high a percentage? I doubt it. The SEC is wrong. They're not protecting investors. They're harming investors, and they need to be stopped here. But I'll go ahead and wrap it up there. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.